Activism has a long and proud history in our country, and the ability to protest is written into our Constitution because justice is too important in creating change to put to chance of a tyrannical government shutting down outside opinions. The growing digital world we live in today has only expanded the ability to protest and make waves in the political atmosphere. Digital activism has become an effective strategy for progressive and conservative parties, and hashtags have come to play a major part in that. Starting on Twitter, hashtags have migrated to just about every social media platform that exists, including Facebook and Instagram. Hashtags make searching easy, filing words and phrases into groups that allow future users to see what is going on in a given conversation. This means that anyone around the world at any given time can expand their awareness of social and political issues through continuous communication, but not without being met without a certain amount of discourse. Because of this, many people have become dependent on hashtags for their digital identities. The hashtag Black Lives Matter was spawned in 2013 after George Zimmerman was acquitted of killing a young black man in Florida. Outrage broke out across the country, and Black Lives Matter became a slogan chanted by tens of thousands around the world. After its inception, many black Americans came to tie their identity to the idea, and a year after Trayvon Martin, the death of Michael Brown in Missouri was a national push to put into justice. Even though this sounds like an innocent idea, and that the people are right to speak up for improved justice when it comes to the murders of innocent children, many conservative groups have tried to connect the Black Lives Matter movement with terrorist groups like Antifa. These comparisons are made to demonize the black protesters and diminish their experiences. Large conservative groups use these tactics to take away from the fact that protests are working. In just 5 years after the inception of Black Lives Matter, census places that have had BLM protests experience a 15 to 20% decrease in police homicides, which shows that those who are identifying with the cause are making true change. There has been a lot of pushback to the agenda of Black Lives Matter, with a lot of concern that there is an insinuation of black lives being more important than any others. A racist idea coming from a group that is fighting racism. Statements like Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter are often used as rebuttals to Black Lives Matter with the purpose of putting down the movement. Much of the outrage over Black Lives Matter protests in the last few years stems from the preaching of hate that has come from Donald Trump, whose presidency seemed to encourage police brutality instead of punishing it. Hashtag #MeToo is the brainchild of Tarana Burke, an idea that she created in the days of MySpace as a way to connect victims of sexual assault and to acknowledge the high percentage of assault that goes unreported. There also needed to be awareness for the victims who feel that their voices have been suppressed. Social media use of the slogan skyrocketed in 2017 after Alyssa Milano opened up about Hollywood abuse. The hashtag gives people the opportunity to share their stories with other people around the world who have had similar experiences, without necessarily having to have their stories come under fire in a legal setting. This has been especially important for women who are not believed by law enforcement, and for men who are attacked by same-sex offenders because their stories are often overlooked or the victim becomes a larger target for other harassment. Much like how Black Lives Matter has been the recipient of media backlash, the Me Too movement has been called by opposition a blame game, when in fact, the hope is that if people are more aware of sexual harassment and how casually it is sometimes treated, then tolerance for it will decrease and support for victims will rise. Me Too has been responsible for several high-profile assault cases coming to light, calling out attackers like Harvey Weinstein and Brett Kavanaugh. The response of these allegations has been incredibly mixed, with people like Kavanaugh losing nothing and actually gaining a seat on the Supreme Court, while celebrities like Bill Cosby are convicted on federal sex crime charges. According to a representative from the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, the biggest impact of Me Too is a decreased stigma and increased awareness. There has been a huge divide among internet users in the wake of this movement, however, and it is certainly seeming like digital identity is essential in debating the effects of Me Too. This discussion is meant to lift up survivors, but has easily become a way for the bigots to display their hatred and pick apart community members that they see as vulnerable. The Free Britney movement began in 2007 when American pop star Britney Spears was seen having a breakdown after being relentlessly harassed by members of the paparazzi. Spears' mental health was called into question, and she was forced into a conservatorship, which allowed her father to legally control her entire life for over a decade. One would think that somebody having a personal crisis could potentially benefit from additional supervision. However, in Britney's case, the pop star lacks independent control over her personal life and her fortune. Her struggle represents the plight of several other celebrities who began their careers at an early age and have been taken advantage of by the industry and even by their family members who have been left in control over their lives.
So many people are resonating with incidents that have nothing to do with them, happening thousands of miles away, but that could just be as real in their own neighborhoods and even in their own homes. Black Lives Matters and Me Too started off as a call for help, for justice to those who have not been able to speak up, whose statements before would have been thrown out with prejudice. Free Britney may be about one woman's struggles, but she represents a plethora of people in her industry that were broken down or abused and used as puppets instead of treated as people. There is no one person that matters more in any of these movements that call for vindication, though there may be some names that do stand out due to larger media coverage. Our identity is not just tied to who we are as an individual, but to what our heritage is, what our community looks like, and what we feel when we hear certain language being used. I know that I personally have come to find myself as an incredibly progressive person through digital media, more so than I probably ever would have if it were not for these digital communities that I'm a part of. I stand with sexual assault survivors, with members of the LGBTQ plus communities, and as well as members of the Black community. And I fully support young celebrities who are taken advantage of by an industry they can't escape. My goal is to be very transparent about how my identity has been changed through digital media. And as I look at it, I also believe that my gender has a lot to do with my views. All three of the hashtag movements that I have discussed here either were started by or primarily led by a female, and that is also a very large part of my life, as well as of my identity.